Now it's time for Perspective. And if you're a fan of food, particularly Middle Eastern food, today's Perspective is for you. My guest at today's cookbook is rather a love letter to his hometown of Bethlehem. Fadi Kattan is a Franco-Palestinian who has a restaurant in Bethlehem and a second one in London. And his book is said to conjure the smells and colours of Bethlehem's market and spice shops as it introduces us to local farmers and artisans with whom its author works. With a book named as one of the top cookbooks of the year now by the Los Angeles Times. And that author, Fadi Kattan, joins us now. So we can see the book there, and I've seen some of the inside pictures and had a quick look at some of the recipes. I mean, I can almost smell and taste those wonderful smells there just looking through your book. What's the aim of it for you?
Good morning, Stuart. What's the aim? I wrote the book more than 2 years ago in English, and it's just been released in French. The aim is, initially, it started with the idea of whether in Bethlehem or in London, or I've just opened a restaurant in Toronto, guests would ask, but where does this come from? And I realized very quickly, people only associated Bethlehem to the Church of the Nativity, but didn't know the rest of the city. So it was taking them by the hand and walking through those alleyways of Bethlehem, having them meet the butcher, the herb seller, the baker, but also my story, my parents, my grandparents, who make my cuisine what it is today.
Yeah, tell us a bit about that, because it's that, isn't it, that's really inspired you to put all this work together.
Nobody cooks in a vacuum, and it's all about transmission. Now, in Palestinian cuisine specifically, we don't have much of the written transmission. Historically, you would learn how to cook from your mother or your grandmother. I still call my mother every day and ask her about recipes, but my grandmother's really, in her kitchen, that's where I started my love for food. And I wanted to somehow be able to share it with the world and say, look, those are the recipes. And by the way, my recipes are not dogma. They're made to be messed around with. They're made to be, have produce switched, just cook spontaneously out of that book, because that's how I cook with, at home. That's how I learned from my grandmother. She would decide to use a certain herb, and on that day, the market didn't have it, and she would just adapt. And I think that's essential, that we go back to that very organic kind of cooking.
I love the way you say that. I'm so terrible at sticking to the letter to recipes, so I'm very pleased to hear about that. Tell us what your favourite recipe is. We've seen some of them flashing up.
Oh, wow. Difficult. Right now, because we're just around the corner from Christmas, I would say my grandmother's Christmas cake. But actually, all of the recipes I love. The one I like the most probably, is my fig salad recipe, because it's the easiest recipe in the world. You just get some nice juicy figs, cut them in 4, sprinkle some extra virgin olive oil and a bit of sumac on top, and that's it.
That sounds beautiful. I should get my wife to make it, because she absolutely loves figs, so she would love doing that. With what's happening in the region, nowadays, how much of a relief does it bring you to be able to cook and be able to, carry on life as much as normal as possible with what's going on around you?
It's a struggle. Just after the 7th of October, and when this horrible genocide started, I couldn't cook. I couldn't get myself to cook while we were seeing on our TV screens a declared starvation of a people. I really struggled with this idea, and today I cook, and I cook proudly, but there's always that broken soul in every human. I don't think it's every Palestinian, it's every human that's witnessing this genocide. But we need to go on. We need to go on, because what's happening is not in a vacuum. It's been going on for 76 years. And partially there is a desire and a will to erase Palestinian culture. And whatever any of us can contribute to just keeping it alive. And I have no claims of preserving Palestinian food. I think people who preserve Palestinian food are people who are cooking Palestinian, whether they're Palestinian or not, wherever they are in the world. But I do think we need to keep this culture alive. Again, we're round the corner from Christmas. I come from Bethlehem. The book is called Bethlehem, and it enrages me that people across the world celebrating Christmas have forgotten that Christmas started in Bethlehem with a Palestinian. And when I say Palestinian, and I've heard a lot of comments about this, we have to remember that part of the world was called the Roman province of Palestina. So regardless of the faith of the parents of Jesus or whatever, they were residents of the Roman province of Palestina, therefore they were Palestinians.
And you're obviously very much a people person as well. A lot of the book, isn't it, is about introducing us to people that you know and love and have grown up with, that provide you with the ingredients that you use.
Of course, it's, chefs have to acknowledge how important the people that we work with are, the people who provide us with the produce, the people who wake up at 3 a.m. to go pick the vegetables and herbs or forage the herbs we are working with. We're lucky to be working, and that's not specific to Palestine, that's worldwide. We have to acknowledge the spice providers, the spice masters and mistresses who mix those spices that we work with. We're part of an ecosystem of people who are great food makers, who are great winemakers, who are fantastic bakers that allow us then to practice our craft.
Good to talk to you on the programme today. Thank you very much for joining us. Fadi Kattan, the book, as you can see, is called Bethlehem, named one of the top cookbooks of the year by the Los Angeles Times. So congratulations for that as well. Thanks very much for joining us on the programme today.